What's up, Nitro Gang? You're looking at a project that I've been working on for 2 years now. This is an Exceed Nitro Madstorm. Now, I initially did some videos on this. I think it was almost about 2 years ago at this time. And my goal was to basically, go brushless. The reason is, the motor it came with, which is this SH.28, it was missing the pull start, and it's missing a lot of the front clutch bell accessories. Now, unfortunately, parts for motors like these are not that easy to find. It actually is a very good looking motor, it has a lot of power, but I am missing parts. What am I gonna do? Lucky for me, a viewer a while ago, I'm sorry I don't remember the user's username, but if you're still watching, I hope you are, man, put a comment in the video. You sent me in this used HPI motor. This is from an HPI Savage. I think this is a F4.6. I'm not quite sure, but it's not the XL 5.9 and it's not the regular 25. It's I think the F4.6. Either way, the motor is in nearly ideal shape. The piston is clean. And I ran into a bunch of problems mounting it. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit. This is a work in progress. Right over here, about a year ago, you guys have seen videos on my channel if you've been with me. This is a HPI Savage XL K5.9. This has a 0.36 engine from the factory. This is a 0.15 size engine. Do you guys see how huge this 0.36 is compared to this 0.15? This is basically the big bad boy of the RC world right over here. This is the largest you can get in the factory ready to run, unless you're talking about the 0.70 Thunder Tiger EK4. Yes, I do know my Nitro RC history. This means that this particular Savage is the largest nitro motor ever to be put into a Savage. There are some other models of the Savage. There is the 5T version, which is a very, very, very rare one with a short course style body. And there's also a Savage Octane, which runs a 15cc gas motor. This is the nitro version. To be honest with you, this is one of the better ones because nitros give really good high RPM. And just so you know, the Savage Octane was actually slower than the nitro model, which is what we have. And guess what? This has a 3-speed. That's right, 3-speed. There's also a whole story with this one. I paid only $100 for this brand new when I picked it up. It came with a box. I did exactly 2 videos on it. You could see what they are here, and then I stopped. The reason I stopped is because on the first rollover I had, I snapped the rear link on the suspension.
That thing sound like it's farting. That thing sound like it's farting.
Alright, you saw that? One flip and then one breakage. This is like the ultimate durability test. All it takes is one flip. But I gotta say, it's not the end of the world. It's just one of these links that's holding on this rear tie rod onto the wheel. But this is actually a common thing. When I read some of the Savage forums, everybody said these things were extremely weak and they always snapped at the back. So no guys, I don't have 4-wheel steering. This is just a broken tie rod in the back. Unfortunately, it came down to the fact that it was incorrectly put together. Let me demonstrate the problem I noticed with the assembly of the rod ends on the back of the suspension. Notice what happens to the wheel here on the left. When I compress the suspension, you could tell this one is literally moving, this way, while the wheel on the right is fixed. This is what you want. You don't want this wheel to be moving. I've already repaired the rod end, but I have it assembled incorrectly the way it was before. I just want to point out how a simple little alignment issue like this could create, a weak point. That's why I initially snapped this rod end. By the way, this Savage came with these parts. So we have the original price, $8.99, Savage shock parts rod ends. Notice how I'm missing all the rod ends that it came with. Now, one of them I've already put onto the truck, but don't worry about that. What that tells me is 3 have already been somehow put on the truck. So there's a high risk of it being misassembled. Always check to make sure that your parts that you think have been repaired are actually correctly repaired. Now I'm going to remove the wheel and we'll take a look at the way it's actually assembled. I already know what's wrong. This is just for demonstration purposes. A very easy mistake that will, lead you to constantly be breaking parts from one little rollover, which is what happened to me. Okay, here we go. This link right here, guys, it's supposed to be on the bottom of the wheel hub. If you look at this wheel on the opposite side, you could tell the link is sitting at the bottom of the actual hub. Now on mine, it's sitting on the top. A simple misassembly of parts like this creates an improper geometry angle, and clearly, you know, the flex of the suspension is not as intended, and it somehow must have led to the destruction of this part. Notice this side of the wheel hub, it's busted. That's right, these are symmetrical parts, so you could easily just flip it from one side of the truck to the other. It looks like it's had a lot of damage to these pretty much hard to damage suspension components. And yes, these are stock parts, but a lot of basic suspension damage like this is not really something I would expect from a Savage. Right now I'm putting the rod end in the correct location, which is on the bottom of the actual wheel hub here. And then there's supposed to be a lock nut on the bottom. This is the correct way to assemble it. This basic little mistake, it'll constantly lead to you breaking parts, and then you'll probably think the truck is bad, something's bad. Well, in this case, it's a a portion of user error and a portion of maybe the parts are just brittle, but once again, we're not going to blame that. This is the right way it should be assembled. Now that it's fixed, watch the wheels. We have equivalent amounts of, I would say, zero movement in any kind of weird direction from the suspension. You guys see how a simple little fix here, just in terms of the geometry of the links themselves, created a problem? Yep, there it is. Absolutely no movement from this wheel at all anymore. The rod ends here is really what usually winds up going. It's a cheap, easy fix, but you know what? It put me out of commission for quite some time. Now, just so you know, this stuff is like a 5 to 10 minute fix at most, but when you're doing videos like I am, and the goal for me is to really tell a story to the audience and also make it interesting for me years down the line, I often take a lot of time to do things, but it's always gonna be right. Count on that, NitroGang. Anyway, this one, it's a work in progress. I ran into so many issues here, it's just kind of unimaginable. Not only was the carburetor in the wrong position, I had to flip it. The engine mounts that this is a buggy style chassis. Here's actually the instruction manual from the 6 seat, so I have all the exploded parts views. I can go through it step by step, and I know exactly what I have and what I don't have. And I did not have a good amount of parts. I was missing the exhaust hanger, so right now I'm using the Savage exhaust pipe hanger. You could see how close the pipe is, to the tank. This is not ideal, but for the time being, it'll be okay. The biggest problem I ran into, and this was a roadblock for a very long time, were engine mounts. I had to drill 3 more holes in the chassis here for engine mounts. Normally, the engine will mount like this. You have engine mounts, and then, basically you just bolt this to the bottom of the chassis. Unfortunately, the length of this motor, it's a .28, right? And the clutch bell components themselves is literally like about 3 millimeters too long. So when I mounted this motor with the existing clutch bell setup, it just did not contact the spur gear. That was really the problem. That is why I had to wind up using the original engine mount from the Savage, and then I had to drill into the beautiful anodized aluminum chassis on this thing. The drilling is actually the easy part. The hard part is getting it straight. Now, unfortunately, I am only able to use 3 screws for the motor mount as it is right now. It's not the end of the world. The 3 motor mount screws should hold. Now, of course, I'm gonna have to thread lock the crap out of it, so it doesn't move. But these are metal gears in these buggies. There's pretty much a very low chance of stripping the gears even if the motor moves, but it is not ideal by any means. The next issue on this currently is the electronics. I'm gonna turn them on right now. So the steering is actually pretty good. Check this out. Steering, oh, we got a little car accident. Steering is fine. The throttle servo, it's extremely glitchy. You guys see that? I'm applying full throttle right now. It's like glitched, it's stuck. I don't know what's going on with it. But yeah, this is the original AM radio. no big deal. I'm gonna use my own fly sky. Well, just right now returned, but you know, this is just one of those things where you gotta invest a little bit more time into this. You can't run it as it is. I purposely left the cooling head off of the motor because if I had to do any motor adjustments with the screws, there'd be no way to get to the engine screws here. So that's why, you know, the heatsink is not on the motor right now. This is a very, I would say, easy way of getting a motor in. You know, just drill some holes into the chassis, boom, there you go. If you're in a NitroGang, changing servos, making parts fit, that's just one of the things you get used to. This is what you have to do. You know, unless you want to buy direct replacement engines, you're gonna have to make stuff work. This isn't like the NitroGang sometimes when, you know, oh, you have to have a motor, it has to fit. If it doesn't fit, there's basically nothing you could do. You have to get parts that fit. In NitroGang culture, we make things go where we want them to go. You know what I'm saying? The only bad thing about long-term storage with nitro motors is the motors could eventually get seized. So this is why I'm going to attempt to start this one up right now. It hasn't been started in a year. But, you know, I put in a good amount of after-run oil after the last run. There should be no problems. I have the battery pack charged. The Voto Start is ready to go. Hopefully this will start up. This one, we still got some work to do, you know, with the NitroGang right here. But guys, don't worry, we're gonna get them finished. This is gonna be a nitro revolution. I figured since we're quarantined right now, you know, it's not in our best interest to go outside and track a lot of unwanted viruses. The Revo Survivor Edition is gonna take care of that because it's got a face mask.
To be protected, you gotta wear your face mask correctly, guys.
So this is a work in progress. If you have any old, you know, nitro parts or whatever, send them to me. I use them in stuff like this. I have other nitros that need motors. That's just the reality of it, you know? So let's go get the Savage up and running.
I gotta go get a different battery. I'm a YouTuber, I do videos on these.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm recording one right now. This is like a vintage truck. It's a 3-speed automatic. This runs the largest nitro engine in any of these trucks you can get.
Oh, okay.
I'll show you right now. So the body comes off, right? It's basically a chassis. This is the starting mechanism. The system, it's a roto start, basically like a drill. Insert it back into the back plate. Unfortunately, right now the battery's a little dead.
Oh, that's how it cranks out, like the old airplanes, you know?
Yeah, fuel tank.
What?